Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings so you don't have to. Today, we are diving into a proxy statement which might sound boring, but trust me, this one has a few interesting twists, including a director leaving the board. You know, the kind of things that make you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. This Glacier Bancorp filing details the upcoming shareholder meeting, director elections, and a few other proposals. So let's get to it. This document is the official notice for Glacier Bancorp's annual shareholder meeting in April 2025. Shareholders will be voting on several key items. It's like a corporate election where everyone with stock gets a say. First, shareholders get to elect 10 directors for the company's board, who will serve until the next annual meeting. These directors are like the captains of the ship, guiding the company's strategy and making important decisions. They also need to approve the Glacier Bancorp Incorporated 2025 Stock Incentive Plan. That's a plan to give employees company stock, which can motivate them but also dilutes the value of existing shares. So that's an important one to watch. There's also a catch-all for other business that might come up at the meeting. You know, those unexpected plot twists. Only shareholders who own stock on February 26, 2025 get to vote. That's the record date. If you bought shares after that, you're just along for the ride this time. It explains how to vote your shares by phone, internet, or mail. If your shares are held by a broker, pay attention. Your broker might not be able to vote your shares on all proposals unless you give them specific instructions. Those are called broker non-votes and they won't count. Here's a list of the biggest shareholders, those owning over 5% of the company. BlackRock Inc. has 12.5%, making them a pretty big player. The Vanguard Group Inc. has 10.9%, and State Street Corporation at 5%, so basically these three companies are almost 30% of the shareholder base. This section shows how much stock each director and top executive owns. It's a way to see if their interests are aligned with yours, the shareholder. You want them to have skin in the game. Here is something interesting that I see. Don Cherry retired on February 7, 2025 and was succeeded by Ryan Screener. It notes that all shares are held jointly with his spouse. Let's take a look at his history. Ryan T. Screener served as Glacier Bank Senior Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer from January 2022 through November 1, 2024. It's worth noting that only took 2-3 years to climb up the ranks. Also, it was promoted to Executive Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer of Glacier and Glacier Bank. He was appointed to his present position as Executive Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer of Glacier and Glacier Bank. He was appointed to his present position as Executive Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer of Glacier and Glacier Bank. He was appointed to his present position as Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer on February 7, 2025. In my opinion, that was kind of quick, so I hope his performance will not be disappointing. Let's talk about the director nominees. David C. Boyles, for example, is a banker with decades of experience. Robert A. Cashel Jr. owns casinos and has a lot of experience in hospitality and gaming. That's helpful for understanding those industries if Glacier deals with them. Then there's Jesus T. Espinoza, an architect of Latino community and business development policy. Having a diverse board can bring different perspectives and help the company connect with more communities. And here's a key piece of information. Sherry Clatter-Hoss is leaving the board. She's been a director since 2010 and chair of the Compensation and Human Capital Committee. That's a big change. The board makes sure there are no conflicts of interest between the chairman and the CEO and believe a non-employee director can be the best choice as chair. The board has an anti-hedging policy that stops directors, officers, and employees from doing anything that protects them from losing money. If Glacier's stock price goes down, it makes sure their interests are aligned with the shareholders. The board says that all listed directors in the report are independent, but that Randall Chesler, Glacier's president and CEO, is not independent. The board has several committees that oversee different kinds of risk management. For example, the Audit Committee handles financial and accounting risks. The Compensation and Human Capital Committee makes sure pay practices don't encourage people to take crazy risks. The Risk Oversight Committee handles principal business risks. This table shows how much the non-employee directors get paid. Craig Langle, as the chair of the board, makes the most with a total of $190,022. Most of the directors get around $150,000, a mix of cash and stock. These are the top executives who aren't on the board. Ron Kiefer is the Chief Financial Officer and Ryan Screener and Lee Groom are Executive Vice Presidents. Here's where the filing goes into detail about how the top executives get paid. It's called the Compensation Discussion and Analysis, or CD&A. Net income was $190 million, which was down 15% from the previous year. Their financial performance is a bit mixed. They made more money from interest, but their overall profit went down because their expenses increased. To determine the performance, the Compensation and Human Capital Committee hired Alon, an independent consulting firm, to see if the company was working like its peers. The group consists of companies that the Compensation and Human Capital Committee believes are comparable in size, performance, and business model to the company. They also granted restricted stock units, RSUs, which vest over 3 years. It's a way to keep executives around and reward them for long-term company performance. This is how they reward executives for hitting yearly goals. The goals are based on things like profitability, asset quality, and growth, and are reviewed annually. Most of the total compensation was dependent on Glacier's financial performance. If the performance does not meet the goals, the base salary remains consistent, but these additional awards would be harder to reach. The amount of equity awards cannot exceed $500,000 for a non-employee director in a calendar year. Now, for what the Audit Committee has to say, the board has determined that the current members of the Audit Committee meet the independence requirements as defined under the NYC listing standards, and that each of David C. Boyles and Craig A. Langell qualifies as an Audit Committee financial expert. Basically, the Audit Committee reviewed all financial statements and has approved to include it in this filing. As with any company, there needs to be an outside auditor that does the work. You are to vote on the ratification of Forvis to do their accounting. If you want to propose something at next year's meeting or nominate a director, you have to let the company know by November 14, 2025. That's it for this proxy statement. Tonight, the Glacier Bancorp seems to be in a bit of a transition. They're dealing with some financial headwinds, but they're also making acquisitions and planning for the future with this new stock incentive plan. The departure of Sherry Cladohose is something to watch. Was it just time for a change, or is there more to the story? I like that the top people at the company have a vested interest in owning company stock. That means their interests are aligned with us, shareholders. However, there was a steep drop in net income, which could mean tougher times are coming. Well, the departure of Sherry Cladohose is something to watch. Was it just time for a change, or is there more to the story? I like that the top people at the company have a vested interest in owning company stock. That means their interests are aligned with us, shareholders. However, there was a steep drop in net income, which could mean tougher times are coming. The interests are aligned with us, shareholders. However, there was a steep drop in net income, which could mean tougher times are coming. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe for more corporate deep dives. What company should we decode next? Let me know in the comments.